Walter and his wife Martha, and they were just really salt of the earth, great people. And in the 90s, their kids, June, their daughter, and their son Wally Jr., along with his wife Sharon, started sort of managing the club. And to tell you how much they love this place and they love the membership, the annual rent for this hill for the majority of time the club was here was $1 a year. And yet they were out here volunteering. Their son Brian would come out and make snow. Just unbelievable. In our last year before we sold the club, the rent was $10,500. It's just a ridiculously low amount. So anyway, they were contacted in 1936, 1937, 1938, all the way through to sell the club. And their answer always was someday. Well, someday came after Wally Sr. passed away. And I have to credit Jerry Morrison's relationship with the Hempel family, with keeping everybody involved. They could have sold this to anyone. And also want to particularly thank Terry McMahon, wherever Terry went, Terry McMahon and Kyle Harmon. Their negotiating expertise and their real estate expertise really paid off. And that's why we're standing on our own property today. And what a great legacy to give future generations. With that, we have a very involved member who's going to be the incoming director of Ski Patrol to say a few words about the Ski Patrol. One of the most dynamic aspects of this club.
What's his name?
Okay. How are you doing? My name's Lou Morgan, and I'll be the incoming patrol director after this season. Tom Williams, our current patrol director, is going to carry on until then, but I'll be taking over for him. I've been a patroller here at HH for almost 11 years, and it's been great. I'm going to put this plug out there right now. If anybody's even interested in it, it's a great way to get involved in the club. It's a great way to become involved with your community also. I transitioned from being a patroller here to being an EMT firefighter for 10 years, and I never thought that was going to happen, but all of a sudden it did, and I'm happy for it and very thankful that I did that. So on that note, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Tom for his 12 years of service as patrol director. And I don't know if you know Tom and his family, Amy, Keller, and Mason, they were out here all the time. Tom is a plumber by trade, and he fixed and really a jack of all trades, and fixed everything that from the plumbing in the heads to putting in new sewers, gas lines for the grills. He built the he and friends built the what do you call it, the gazebo over the grills, or the pergola. And you know, down in the patrol room is hours of untold work just putting together equipment and everything. So thank you, Tom, for doing all that. And prior to that was Amy and Kurt Milik, and Kurt's over there. So we thank them for that. There's a couple other people that you know, as heritage goes, we really need to acknowledge for the Ski Patrol. Two of those people, and I'll call it two because the wife has to put up with the husband doing all this stuff. But Norm and Marcy Vincent, and I don't know if Norm is here today. Norm? No? Okay. So Norm has been the instructor of record. So each ski patrol has a person that's in charge of education for the ski patrol. And they're in charge of training new patrollers and refreshing existing patrollers. And Norm has done this for
20 years.
20 years.
Well, here 20 years.
At least 20 years, 20 plus years. And Norm is a great educator. I don't think he was not formally trained as one, but He teaches us OEC class, which is outdoor emergency care, and does an awesome job and refreshes us. And Norm is 89 years old now, and he will be retiring. He is gonna has turned over his reins over the last couple of years to our new instructor of record, which would be Derek Potluck. Is Derek? Derek's not here, but Derek will be taking over for Norm. Big shoes to fill. It's not an easy job. Norm's probably trained hundreds of patrollers, and each patroller goes through toboggan training here on our hill because it's very localized. We have our own protocols here. And OEC class, which is outdoor emergency care. It's roughly the equivalent of an emergency medical technician on a basic level, okay? So we have Mr. Norm, as he's affectionately known, to thank for most of our existing patrols education. So we thank Mr. Norm for that. And last but not least, there's one guy that was patrol director before I got on, and unfortunately I only had the opportunity to meet him once or twice. But he was our legendary Don Whitaker, and he and his wife Marcy left a lasting legacy, not only at the club but for the patrol in general. We have Don to thank for his 20 plus years as patrol director, a number of things that we use for our continuing education. We have CPR dummies. We have all the radios we have a dozen radios that are not cheap. Don supplied all those. We have a snowmobile that's dedicated to the ski patrol for whatever we need to do on the hill. Don did that. Unfortunately, we lost Don last year. A very sad moment, but he continued his patronage, and he will become the patron saint of our patrol. He left for the patrol's 501c3, our nonprofit, over $80,000 for us to spend for education, equipment, and everything. I get a little choked up on that. That amount of money for the patrol leaves us in an extremely good position to provide care for the hill for decades, probably. I mean, that amount will last us decades, and we can't say enough about that gentleman. And I unfortunately, like I said, just didn't get enough time to meet with him and get to know him better, but he's left a great legacy here for the hill, and we really appreciate it. So that's it. If you have any...
I do want to make one comment about ski patrol. Who was here the night the chairlift went down? Okay, how many years ago was that?
2
2 years ago, we had, and I'm only going to say, I'm saying this because you people, you ski patrollers, are the life of our hill. We couldn't be open without you. We couldn't run practices, races, do all that we all do. The chairlifts, for you newer family members here, the chairlifts were filled with all the little kids coming to practice. We had 80 plus kids at practice. We had their parents sitting in their cars, and the chairlift broke down.
And it was cold.
And it was cold. And within how long did it take for you?
59 minutes.
59 minutes.
Exactly.
And I mean, this is belay on, belay off. Shooting the gun off over the rope, encouraging the kids to get on the little seat, and it's okay, you can do it, Johnny, and they all did.
Yeah.
And you were amazing. And when I say come to Holy Hill, the ski patrol are great, they are. So
Thanks,
thank you.
Jane.
All our training paid off,
Yeah.
and we had the good news is we train for this every year, and This was the first time I think we've ever had to evacuate the chair. A drive shaft broke. So it wasn't just, we lost power or something. The drive shaft broke. So it was a catastrophic failure. Nobody was hurt. Nobody was hurt. The chair stopped. Everything happened just like it should have. And we were able to do it. We learned a lot that night. And the next, if it ever happens again, if it ever happens again, we think we'll do it way faster than 59.
So I was on ski patrol that night,
Yeah.
and actually Jane and her crew and all the instructors that were here and all the parents really helped us out, because in an emergency, you can't just rely on the patrollers, right? Everybody has to pitch in, and to the letter, everybody did. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And I kind of wrote up the report after. We met every single one of National Ski Patrol's guidelines and parameters on timing and when something was done, and every single thing we did to the letter or better. So I was really proud of that too.
Yep.
So I really, Gene, that was a great message. Ski Patrol really is the lifeblood of the club. I really liked Louis' message that everybody should review your estate plan and leave something, leave something to the club. So this is something funny. So 16 years ago, my 15-year-old son said, "Hey, can I be a ski patrol?" We looked into it, and we became ski patrol. And this was the book we went through. What I think is hilarious is there's a 4-page book that they had in the 1960s when my parents were ski patrols. So times have changed. You learn a lot. But before we wrap this up, there's a couple of names that weren't brought up, and obviously so many names are not going to be mentioned, but a couple that I just have to mention. One is Tom Marshall, who recently left the board. Tom, just a terrific guy, and the focus, the organization, the prioritization that he brought to the board and to the club over the last few years cannot go unrecognized. The other, my good friend Tim Hayes, standing over there by the door, can embarrass him. If you ever hear, "I know where all the bodies are buried," he knows where all the bodies are. If you go around this hill, anything you don't see that's functioning, that helps the hill run, he knows where it is. Nobody else does. But anyway, Tim has just been a great asset to the club, and I have to say, Augie Barco, the energy that he's brought to the board, and my personal favorite, Hillfest, has been outstanding. But anyway, and I want to thank Kristen for stepping up, social director. So many things are fun, and so many things have been so productive. So thank you, Kristen. And with that, Rob.
It's like Academy Awards, we need music.
Who designed it?
That was Forrest Negler who designed the octagon and this.
Really? Okay.
And
It's
actually,
so cool.
And actually, a little aside to this, you guys, is when we were doing the addition and putting in the bathrooms, underneath this building, this is a poured slab. There was a hole right behind that door over there. My cousin Carla and I climbed under to put in the plumbing. And nobody was supposed to come in the building, and all of a sudden we heard a bunch of kids coming. The whole slab went like this. Oh. Carla and I got up really fast. Thanks, Rob.
Let's eat. Yeah. All right, I will be as brief as I can. So first, thanks to everybody that spoke. I've been here 6 years, which feels kind of like a long time, and then I hear stories of 50, 60, 70 years and all the stuff, the history. Like, I genuinely love to soak that stuff up. I have to second thank you to Augie. The amount of energy he has, it is difficult to keep up with, but a lot of the stuff you see going on is because of the countless hours that guy puts behind the scenes. It's unbeknownst to everybody, so give him a big hug every time you see him.
Yeah.
Also, I know a lot of the staff is not here, but thanks to the staff. They put in also countless hours when it's 20 below, standing outside. You know, they're here when we're making snow at the beginning of the year. They'll be here 24, 48 hours, sleeping downstairs. It's not the most glamorous, but we have to thank them because we get to play because they put in hard work. So the one quick thing I'm going to speak about, we've talked about the history. Looking forward, there's been a lot of changes in the club in the last couple of years, and what are we doing? So there was a long-term planning committee that was together for, anywhere between 3 and 10 years, depending on who you talk to when it started. Tom Marshall was one of the guys, definitely helped shepherd it through. Lots of ideas, how do we change this, what do we do that? As many of you hopefully have seen, we kind of broke it down into 3 phases. Essentially, snowmaking, buildings, and then a chairlift. And we started with the snowmaking. You can see the giant hole that is now filled with water that we did this summer. It was a lot of time and a lot of work. But we will have a little. It's 18 feet deep, if anyone's asking. Please don't go swimming, especially in the winter. So we're hoping to finish up the snowmaking portion of it next year. We'll have some more guns. We'll get our new pumps, which is what is really going to make the snowmaking better. We're going to finish that up next year, and we're going to start tipping into the phase 2, the building stuff. So there's a few of us that have spent hours and hours going back and forth as to what does the building look like at the bottom of the hill. It's currently kind of in shambles, so what do we make that into? What is the chalet? We've talked about expanding the chalet, we've talked about just expanding the deck. Like, there's a lot of options. Obviously, everybody has their own opinion. The one thing I can promise you is the core thing we want to do is make upgrades to the club without changing the club. We do not want to change the culture. We do not want to make a big cafeteria like Potluck has. Like, we want to make it better, but better in an HH way better. So I want everybody to know we genuinely take that seriously, and the board has that discussion anytime something comes up. Let's make sure this still keeps the core culture of our club. So,
Rob,
go ahead, Russ.
could you comment on when you talk about culture, there's recent discussion about volunteerism.
Oh, that's a good point.
Could you
Yep.
talk about that for just a moment?
Sure.
Just kind of the current view of where we're at?
Yep.
Yeah.
Great point, Russ. So as I think someone had commented earlier, the club was just run by the members. There was no full-time staff. We still pride ourselves in being a volunteer club. I know I personally, when I tell people that I belong to a private club, I don't want to seem too pretentious, so I say it's actually kind of a co-op, where you get to run the lift, and you get to do this. And it's not that you have to, it's that you get to. Right, and it sounds funny, but stacking wood today, I met 3 new people that I wouldn't have met, and we had good conversation. And chopping wood, that's just kind of fun stuff that you do. So we are going to continue to emphasize volunteerism on the Hill. The club has really responded this year. There was kind of some weirdness with COVID and all that stuff in the previous 2 years, but it's absolutely a focus of what the board wants to do. On the just straight number side, it's difficult to hire people these days. So we need people. If we don't have people to come run the lift, we have to supplement them with people that we've hired at $20-some an hour. So I encourage everybody to volunteer. It is a fun thing. Honestly, that's how I'm here. I came to Workday 5 or 6 years ago, and the little hut out there over the grills, they were putting those things in, and there was this mast that Tom Williams had that he cranked those things up so that they were dangling so we could drop them in. And he said, "All right, you look like some dead weight. Just stand there." So I stood on this little mast looking over the edge of the deck, and the wheels were like this far from falling, and all I could think is, if this thing goes, I'm dead with this 1-ton thing hanging up there. And met a few people through that, which was a lot of fun. Then Augie called me one day and said, "Hey, you want to join the board? We just drink beer for like 2 hours. 2 hours, everyone, don't worry about it." So that's how I got involved in the board. We are always looking for more volunteers for either the board, or we're creating subcommittees to work on specific areas, because a board member cannot take on an entire snowmaking project or an entire building project or an entire whatever. So if you are interested, you can contact myself, you can contact Augie, give your name to Brad or Michelle or whoever. We're always looking for people to just kind of help out. So, you asked any other questions? Anybody have any question about the Hill or anything else? We have a lot of new members this year, which I think is great. It's always sad to see some people leave. Most of the people that left did not leave, we'll say, in angst. It were lots of people who had sort of let's say, aged out of the club. Their kids were gone, they were maintaining a membership but never used it. So they left because said, yeah, it's probably not for us. But now that we have a whole bunch of new members, which are lots of young families, we feel like we've got a good core to maintain the membership in the club for at least 10 or 15 years. So I think that's actually a really great thing. Yes, sir.
You just brought up, we always loved the older members who paid the dues but didn't use the club.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Now, I find myself.
Okay, and if you would like to donate more, we'll always take more. So,
Thanks, Rob.
okay, all right.